Back on the record, time is 11:27 a.m.
Okay, so when we left off, we were just talking about the three different documents that you mentioned that support this. We talked about the warrant. Is there anything else that you want to add about the warrant before we move on to the next document?
Nope.
Okay. So you mentioned the Hindenburg report, and so I'm going to pull that one up next. Give me just a moment to mark it. Okay, and I think I'm still sharing my screen. Okay, Exhibit 4 is a document that was produced by your attorneys. It's a 26-page document that says, humble illusions of grandeur, collapsing international deals, and lurking dilution. Is this the Hindenburg report that you were referring to?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Mr. Farkas, do you have a paper copy of that one?
I do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great. So I read through this report, and I just have a few questions about some of the things in here. But before we kind of jump into the specifics, can you, and feel free to take your time looking at the report, can you point me out anywhere in this report where it says that Mr. Sharp purchased shares of Humble that supports your allegation?
Supports my allegation. The strategy was orchestrated in part by the company's finance. Sorry, sorry, it's written down. Sorry, I was reading my fault. The strategy was orchestrated in part by the company's financial advisor and major warrant holder, George Sharp, who gaslit investors following revelations of the issuance. Later saying details on corporate actions were withheld so as not to create, quote, mass panic and to save investors from themselves.
Okay.
It later goes on to call him a promoter, which, you know.
Just for the record, that's on Bates page 1. It's the fourth bullet point from the bottom.
Correct.
So it mentions George Sharp as a warrant holder. Doesn't say anything about purchasing shares, though, does it?
A warrant is a right to purchase a share at any single time. It's fully exercisable at any single time. Yeah. So this is yes. So I maintain that.
Okay, fully exercisable, meaning he can exercise it. But is there anything in here that said that he did exercise it?
No.
Nothing in the okay.
Hold on,
And
hold on.
feel free to look through it.
I mean, it's a how many page report?
26.
Yeah. So I don't think if you want to look through it, but you know, I mean, I think their document speaks for itself. I'd object that it's overbroad. You know.
Okay. Well, I mean, Mr. Rosen said that he relied on this document in
Correct.
making these statements. I just want to make sure I understand which portions of this document you relied on.
I said this was and I'm telling
to
you.
support your statements. So aside from
again, I just object that it's overbroad, vague and ambiguous, and it lacks foundation.
okay, aside from that fourth from the bottom bullet point that you read and the mention of Mr. Sharp as a promoter, are there any other portions of this document that you
Yes,
relied on?
of course.
In making
It
your
then
statements?
speaks about 3 million shares about to hit the market.
Okay, so can you show me where?
I mean, do I have to go through this whole thing seriously?
Well, yes, because I'm trying to understand the basis for your statements, and I read through this and I wasn't able to find any.
Promoter further gaslights humble investors by making light of extraordinary dilution risks, telling them they ought to sell their shares if they really think insiders are going to dump them at year end. Promoter George Sharp also responded on Twitter to the backlash following Humble's disclosure, telling shareholders to sell if they think 6 billion new shares will suddenly appear. This strikes us as classic gaslighting. To respond to Sharp, about 3 billion shares will suddenly become available for sale in December.
Okay, and that's
Sharp also chastised investors for not recognizing the insiders had earned these shares. The following individuals now have shares on as converted basis with the following current valuations. That's it.
okay, and that's on, for the record, the bottom of Bates page 6 and the top of Bates page 7.
Correct.
So I understand the position on Mr. Sharp in this report is not positive. Does it say anywhere in this report that he actually exercised that warrant and purchased Humble shares for any amount?
Overbroad Lax Foundation, excuse me, document speaks for itself.
No.
Okay, so there's nothing in this document that says Mr. Sharp ever purchased shares of Humble.
Now, hold on, it's 26 pages.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think, no.
I've read
Document
it.
speaks for itself, Lax Foundation.
You're the one that relied on it, so I'm trying to understand which part.
Well, it was asked and answered.
All this nonsense, this company is such a scam.
Hold on.
Yay. Just as we were getting ready to publish, a not so unexpected chain of events occurred. Promoter George Sharp, who had been taking heat on Twitter for Humble's falling share price, made his Twitter account private. He explained the move was due to, quote, too many smartasses making, quote, smart-ass comments. Then, over the weekend, Sharp announced to his private Twitter group that he was parting ways with Humble, blaming certain transactions and announcements over the last 9 weeks, with which he disagreed. It's the timing, yeah.
Okay, so and for the record, that's on the bottom. Sorry, that's on
21.
Bates page 21. Is there any mention in there of George Sharp purchasing shares of Humble?
Nope.
Okay, and before we move on, I want to go back to the previous section that you read, which was on, I think 6 and 7. Is that right? Yeah. So I want you to go to the top of page 7. So the last sentence there on that at the top, the following individuals now have shares on the as converted basis with the following current valuations. So it's Brian Foote, CEO of Humble, $2.2 billion. Mark Grado, $488 million. Jeffrey Hinshaw, $353 million. Michelle Rivera, $250 million. And then they mention Mr. Sharp down here. Sharp has done extraordinarily well too. He parlayed his $200,000 investment in Humble into an investment valued around $394 million as of March 9th. So it does mention Mr. Sharp purchasing shares of Humble, but does it say anywhere that he purchased them for $5,000?
Misstates testimony, confuses a tweet, vague and ambiguous, Lax Foundation. It's not a reasonable comparison between the tweets.
Apples and oranges. These are all the insiders of the company. I mean, seriously, like, you know.
Okay. But I mean, they list...
Mr. Sharp is listed as a selling shareholder in SEC reports. Okay, he's listed as a selling shareholder.
We'll get there.
I hope so.
We'll get there. So this does mention a $200,000 investment. I'm just trying to figure out, is there anywhere that mentions that $5,000 for 50 million shares that you mentioned?
Lax Foundation calls for speculation, vague and ambiguous, and incomplete hypothetical. Document speaks for itself. This is comparing a different document.
So no.
Okay. All right, and I think you left off around page 22. And if you want to go through the rest, just let me know if there's anything in there that,
I'm good.
again, supports your statement.
It all supports my statement. All of it supports my statement.
I-
It just doesn't say the words 5,000. That's what you're trying to get at. But all of this supports
Oh,
my
wait, wait.
statement.
Wait for a question.
Well, Mr. Rosen, the statements that I'm concerned about are that Mr. Sharp bought 50 million shares of Humble stock that he paid $5,000 for. Is there anywhere in this Hindenburg report that says that?
Ms. State's testimony lacks foundation. Overbroad document speaks for itself.
No.
Okay. I have a few other questions about this before we move on to the next document. When did you first come across this report?
2 days after it was written. Or the day, actually 2 hours after it was written.
How'd you get it so quick?
Because all these nerds on Twitter send me everything that he ever fucking writes. Sorry, everything that he ever writes. Don't just take that one off. Sorry about that.
But this isn't something that Mr. Sharp wrote. It was something written by a third party, right?
No. But like what I'm saying is that people, they love to like show me everything that he likes, like anything having to do with him and me, and like, you know, it's really funny. Like, you know.
So people on Twitter sent you this report?
I got a link for it within 2 hours of it being published.
Do you remember who sent you that link?
I don't remember. About 40 different people sent it to me. So like, you know, all random people on Twitter, and it's from all different types. Like, we hate you, go screw yourself. Here, look what Georgie did. Like blah blah blah. Or and people who are on my side. You know, it's all random.
Okay, so you received copies of this report.
And then obviously I verified and looked it up on Google. I mean, because anything, these nut jobs could put anything on there.
Have you ever heard of, before seeing this report, had
It's
you
a
ever...
very well respected
Oh,
thing.
let me ask the question,
Gotcha.
please. Before you had heard of Hindenburg research, or before you received a copy of the report, had you ever heard of Hindenburg research?
Yes, it's a super well respected research firm.
What do you know about them?
They've been around for several years. They've exposed several, I don't know, bad companies. They've helped a lot of other good companies. They've I don't know.
And where did you learn this information about Hindenburg research?
It's like saying, where did you hear about like the Wall Street Journal? It's a huge publication. It's an enormous publication. The fact that you've never heard of it, I think, is weird.
So where did you learn about it?
From being in this business. Every single person in this entire business has heard of it, including your client.
Okay, hold on, don't pointing.
Now, I told you I read the report. So do you think the fact that Hindenburg research has a financial interest in seeing Humble's stock value decline might affect the objectivity
They
of
don't
the
have a
report?
financial
Wait
interest.
wait for me to. Objection lacks foundation, calls for speculation, assumes facts, vague and ambiguous.
So say the question so I can say yes or no again. What is it?
How do you think the fact that the Hindenburg research has a financial interest in seeing Humble's stock value decline might affect the objectivity of this report?
Same objections.
Yeah, I don't believe that they do have any. I don't believe they do have anything. They don't have any vested interest in seeing it go down.
Oh, they don't? Can you turn to the page 23? What does it say at the top of page 23?
The same disclaimer that every single person.
Above that,
We are short shares of Humble.
what does that mean?
They're short shares of Humble.
What does that mean?
Means that they are betting that the company is a scam. They already took their position at this time. It doesn't make any sense. If this were stock manipulation or illegal, they would get in trouble for it.
Okay, so they are short shares of Humble, meaning they're shorting Humble. Is that right?
They already
Hold
have
on,
a.
vague and ambiguous as to describe, lacks foundation, assumes facts. Document speaks for itself. If you don't know what they did, and you only know what's on there, that's all you can testify to.
Okay. So, but the fact that it says we are short shares of Humble, what does that suggest to you as someone who's used to reading these famous Hindenburg research reports?
Again, the document speaks for itself, lacks foundation, assumes facts, calls for speculation. You can answer if
I don't
if you
remember the
know.
question. What is it again?
Can you read it
I
back?
like stop listening. I've checked out. I'm sorry.
No, don't do that.
If we need another break, like a
No,
lunch
I-
break so he can get his blood sugar up or something, go ahead.
Hold on. All right. All right. Question, but the fact that it says we are short shares in, is it Humboldt or Humboldt?
Humbl,
Okay,
Humble.
Humboldt. what does that suggest to you as someone who is used to reading these famous Hindenburg research records?
That they have a short position in Humble.
Does that mean that if Humble stock goes down, they make money?
Lax
No.
Foundation assumes facts.
Does not mean that.
Okay.
100% does not mean that, but
Does
it's
it
nice that you're trying to
mean-
imply it.
Does it mean that that Hindenburg Research has a financial interest in seeing
No, it does
Humble's-
not.
Let me finish the question, please. Does the fact that Hindenburg Research is short shares of Humble indicate that Hindenburg Research has a financial interest in seeing Humble's stock value decline?
Vague and ambiguous as to who Hindenburg is. Lax Foundation assumes facts. Calls for speculation.
No.
Okay, so what does it mean if you're short shares of Humble?
It means that you're betting the stock price is going to go down instead of go up.
And if it goes down, what happens?
Vague and ambiguous as to who is
Tons
you.
of things can happen.
You make money, right?
No, you do not. That's not. You're implying bullshit right now.
Then
So-
explain to me what happens. I'm trying
yeah.
to understand it.
I'm not a trader like this. I have no idea. I have no basis for this. Sorry.
Have you ever shorted a stock?
Never shorted a stock in my entire life.
Do you understand what shorting a stock
I guess
is?
not.
Why don't we take a break?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Fucking
Record bullshit. 43 and